Oh, hi there, and greetings, brethren. I am the donkey, and welcome to another day and another beer. Today, we shall be having Pfungstädter Edelpilz, which is a premium pilsner, so a lager beer. Again, I know, but we'll get through those very quickly, and I'll start getting some other ones in. Where's my bottle opener? There we go. So Pfungstädter is a very stereotypical local beer. So in Germany, if you don't know, there are about a bajillion different breweries. Pretty much every town, every village, every city has their own brewery, at least one. Most towns and cities have multiple ones. For example, my city has at least 3, and then there's a couple more in the surrounding villages. So there's quite a lot of local beers. And I would say that Pfungstädter is probably the most popular in the area. Maybe not the best in my opinion. We shall see. But it's definitely, I would say it's the most palatable one. The other couple of local ones that we have are a bit more specialized. Flavor-wise, maybe a little bit more interesting, but also a bit more polarizing. So I think in general, this is just what the broadest amount of people likes. Oh yeah, also I should say it says Edelpilz, right? So it's a premium premium pilsner. I don't really know that means that much. Honestly, it's said to be much better hops and such, but I don't know. I don't personally think that every beer that has premium quality hops is also a premium quality beer. So I think it's mostly a marketing thing. I mean, remember there is a German purity law, so there's really not that much you can do with ingredients. Types of ingredients. But, so you have to do it with slogans and stuff. But this brewery has been going since 1831, which is good. We like ourselves a traditional brewery. And we like ourselves a beer with a good crown. Let's not get crazy here. I would like to still be able to drink it out of the mug, not off the table. All right, well, I'm gonna have to let this settle a bit. I was a bit too aggressive on that one. But we can already have a look at the color. It's nice. It's a very it's a sort of color where if this is your piss, you should go to the doctor, or just in general drink more water. But yeah, it's definitely a sort of a honey yellow, strong color for a beer, which hopefully means we're also going to get some strong flavors. Spoilers, but not. All right, here we go. Cheers. So I definitely like Pfungstädter a lot more than Beck's, but I do think that as a sort of beer, it's not very. I don't find it particularly special. I think that what it does really well is it's a good local beer, and what I mean by that is when you travel around in Germany, what you should do is you should drink the local beer, because for one, it supports the local economy, which is great. There's not that much local economy left in Germany. We have been mostly taken over by chains in a lot of ways, but beer is still one of those things where you actually do have private breweries, local breweries, families running them for decades, sometimes hundreds of years, and you kind of support that where you can. Also, what it does, drinking local beers, is it gives you an idea of the area, because every area in Germany is slightly different. Every area has its sort of different charm, different things that they like, and so the beer over time kind of takes on those characteristics. So the area where this is from is used to be a lot more working class than it is now. It is a lot more hipster now, and so this still kind of carries that sort of working class feel to it. It's a bit more hearty and has not too much depth to it. It's not complex. It's not something that some guy with with horn rim glasses and a flannel shirt is gonna tell long stories about the depth of flavor. But it's a decent beer, and it's absolutely drinkable. So that's all I have to say pretty much about Pfungstädter, because it's just not. There's really not that much to say. It's decently savory. It's bitter, but it's bitter in a way that doesn't, where you can just easily keep drinking it. So again, definitely sort of a drinking beer, middle grade. Yeah, but definitely has a lot more of that sort of bitter aftertaste than a Beck's would have, or a Heineken. So it's it's not quite as chuggable, and at least for me this is true. I do kind of get sick of it after a while. I prefer different beers, but it's fine. So, but for the rest of this video, a good opportunity to talk about the German purity law, because if you're not from Germany, you may have heard of this and may have found it incredibly strange. And I would like to first make it clear that this isn't actually a law. There's no, if you don't, brew by this formula, you go to jail. It's not that kind of law. It's more the direct translation that comes to mind to me would be commandment, like in the Bible. It's not a law as in, a state law or a federal law. It's just, there is legal stuff attached, right? So if you don't brew by the German purity law, you are not legally allowed to call it a German beer. But you could definitely brew a beer in Germany and not follow the German purity law. It's just that you're not allowed to call it a German beer anymore. You have to call it something else. But that's fine. And most craft beer companies that we have here do just that. They just call it craft beer or something else. They just don't call it a German beer. So what is the German purity law? So, the German purity commandment. It basically means that the only things you're allowed to put in your beer are water, hops, malt, and yeast. And that is it. You're not allowed to add any additives. What type of malt is up to you. What type of yeast, what type of hops. There's all sorts of different strains and kinds and this and that. And then, you can cook the Maische, what is it called? The when you put the malt in the water and you boil that. You can boil that for a certain amount of time or less, and all that sort of stuff. And so that's where all the different flavors come from, right? So just because they're all brewed with the same ingredients doesn't mean they all taste the same. There is a lot of room on the spectrum of flavors, even within the German purity law. And there's also different techniques. That's why I was saying, I think a lot of people, or in a previous episode I said, I think a lot of people mistake German beer for this. Like, this is all German beer is, this is just what we have. That's not true, because you can, even with those basic ingredients, you can still make all kinds of beers. You can make a lager, you can make a pale lager, you can make a dunkel, you can make a bock, you can make a doppelbock, you can make a black beer, you can make Kölsch, I guess. I don't know why you would, but I guess you could. You can make a wheat beer. You can make a Weissbier. You can make a Kristallweißbier. So there's still a lot of range that these 4 simple ingredients can go. But it is, if you don't follow these 4 simple ingredients, you are not allowed to call it a German beer. That's really all it is. So again, not really a law, more of a commandment, but it does have somewhat legal ramifications. I don't drink Pfungstädter very often because, as I said, it's not my favorite local beer, and there are so many local beers. I will definitely have my more favored local beers. I don't know, soon. I don't know. At some point. At some point, I'm sure. I mean, the mission is to drink every beer, so I'll have to get to them. But yeah. So, is it necessary to brew beer by the German purity law? No. And there are some Germans who are very anal about that and will just not drink anything that is not, by the law. I'm not one of them. I do enjoy other countries' beers. I do enjoy beers that aren't brewed by the purity law. I think it doesn't necessarily mean that your beer is going to be good, and it doesn't also, if you don't brew by it, it doesn't mean that your beer is going to be bad. And some beers really can't be brewed by those laws. For example, ales. You can't really make an ale because you need to add the fish bladder thing. Which, by the way, is not necessary, but I guess that it's just part of the brewing process for an ale. So there you go. There are a few things I think have no room in beer, but what are you going to do? For example, I think the American habit of putting corn syrup in the beer is that's awful, and it really just speaks for cheap ingredients. So that might be my only criticism of stuff that really shouldn't be in beer. But other than that, I really don't care. I think that you can do all sorts of stuff with beer, and it's fine. So yeah, to give this a rating, I would say I would call this a 6 out of 10. I think as a local beer, it's fine, and there are plenty of people who will like it. But to me, it's just not what I want. It trends a little too much to the sort of average, popular kinds of beers. So I tend to go for other ones. All right, but if you're ever in the middle region of Germany and you see this, give it a go and see if you agree or disagree. All right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Beer a Day. Do be sure to leave me any comments that you might have, because I'd be glad to respond to them. Have a good evening, and I'll see you on the next day with the next beer. Cheers.